There are countless opportunities to change the world, and at Indiana Wesleyan University, whether it's an on-campus or online experience, we'll help you discover your path.
It's one of the largest faith-based universities in the United States and has been on a mission to educate future nurses, teachers, and business leaders for more than 100 years. Indiana Wesleyan University, its main campus located in Marion in Grant County, where more than 3,000 students study and live. Also home to a two-time national championship women's volleyball team, state-of-the-art football stadium, and a $30 million basketball arena under construction. Get to know more about Indiana Wesleyan University and its mission as we speak with its 10th president, Dr. Jon Kulaga, on this edition of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Dr. Jon Kulaga. He is the 10th president at Indiana Wesleyan University, based in Marion, Grant County, but the impact of that university certainly extends far beyond that part of the state. Dr. Kulaga, thanks for joining me.
That's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, how are things in Marion? Now, you are relatively new. When did you actually take office there at IW?
Yeah, I started in August of 2022.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about it now. 30-plus year career in higher education, in particular Christian higher education, most recently 5 years as president and CEO at Ohio Christian University. What attracted you to Indiana Wesleyan? Certainly a lot going on there, but what really brought you to Indiana?
Yeah, I have, as a native Michigander serving in Christian higher ed, I have been very familiar with all the great schools in Indiana, especially up the I-69 corridor, and Indiana Wesleyan sort of being the anchor, the largest of all those schools. And I've met with staff and faculty throughout the years. When I was serving in Kentucky, still knew about Indiana Wesleyan because Indiana Wesleyan has centers in Kentucky. When I was in Ohio, I knew about Indiana Wesleyan because Indiana Wesleyan has centers in Ohio. So kind of always been in the orbit of Indiana Wesleyan, and it's a theological fit, it's a mission fit, and it's a great university to be a part of.
Well, you mentioned the presence of Indiana Wesleyan University that I think would surprise a lot of people. The main campus there in Marion, I think you have about 2,600 students on the Marion campus, but other campuses around Indiana, multiple states. And you have thousands of students, right, online. So you really, I think when you add it all up, you're the largest private institution in the state.
Yeah, that's what we understand. We're running right around 15,000. And so if you add it, plus we also have a seminary with about 650 students in the seminary. So when you add it all together, we're hovering right around 15,000. It depends if you count before graduation or after graduation.
Right. As I said, lots going on. And what I think is a very interesting development that is, I think, very new is this move for Indiana Wesleyan to develop a vocational school, really addressing some of the key needs, workforce needs here in the state of Indiana. Talk about this idea, this plan, and where you see it going.
Yeah, so depending on the numbers, you'll hear about 53% of all Indy Hoosiers graduating high school seniors, about 53% are interested in any kind of college, post-secondary education, which leaves about 47% who will either go directly into some kind of a workforce, whether it be working at Hobby Lobby or Texas Roadhouse. Some will enter the military, and then some are really interested in the trades. And we've got a huge vacuum. We got a lot of people retiring out of the trades and the next generation not coming in. You know that if you ever try to get your car fixed or an electrician or a plumber, you're sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And so we just decided, we're going to try to help solve that problem. And the way we're going to go about doing it, I was sitting in an Uber, and I realized that Uber is the largest transportation company in America, but they don't own a car.
Right.
eBay, largest retail, but they don't own a piece of clothing. They don't own anything they sell. And I thought, I wonder if we could deliver vocational training on site at the dealerships and not have students worry about moving to live in a dorm or drive to some regional center or building, but actually drive to a dealership and be apprenticed in the dealership by the certified auto mechanics that are working there, whether it be an A, B, or C level mechanic, get their first or second level certification through that, take the test, and that would allow the person to the apprentice to actually get the skills they need. They'd be able to skill up, but then they would also understand the business. I have two sons who work in the car business. One's a finance director and one works the floor selling, but there is a real symbiotic relationship between the back of the shop and the front. If you take your car in and you're going to trade it in, they got to get that car to the back of the shop and get it assessed and a number out to the front so the salesman can say, we're going to give you X amount of dollars for your car. So I think by delivering the training actually in the dealership, the person learns the actual business in real time, and the dealer is then allowed to assess their work ethic. They're allowed to acculturate them into the way in which we do business here at X dealership. And it's startable, but then it's scalable because really any dealership in the state of Indiana can provide that. And then it's sustainable because we're not trying to go to the state every year for money to build us another auto bay or upgrade our equipment. The dealerships have to do that. If the country decides they want electric vehicles, the dealerships are selling, well, they got to figure out a way to fix them. If we switch from electric vehicles to hydrogen in the next decade, guess who's got to tool up? Not me, the dealership's got to tool up, and they'll have the latest and the greatest equipment, and they'll be taught on site. Our vision is to really develop this vocational school, for lack of a better name, but do it in a way in which people stay in their communities. And then while they're getting their automotive training, they'll also be enrolled in an associate's degree from Indiana Wesleyan. So about 22% of Hoosiers have a college degree of any kind, of an associate's degree or higher. And so we need to raise the level of education in the state of Indiana.
Certainly, vocational education, the trades, been a big issue in the state when it comes to talking about workforce development. What's been the reaction you've gotten to this idea, and how quickly do you think this could happen? As I think you mentioned, you think it's scalable. You think it could be happen in other parts of the state.
Yeah, we've received a grant from, I've been working with I'm on the governor's workforce commission. Governor Holcomb established that, and working with Governor Braun, and we've received a grant from the state. And Indiana Wesleyan has also set aside $1 million of our own funding, and that was matched by the state. So we have $2 million to launch this. So we'll be doing a pilot in the next 9 months to see, because there's all kinds of kinks to work out in terms of the delivery of the curriculum. We have to develop the website. We have to develop the financial aid processes. We'll launch it small, and then from there, we'll go big. I really think we've talked with several dealerships. I just literally walked away from one 2 hours ago, and a local one here in Grant County, and they are really excited about the potential. They said, if you can find them and send them to us, we would love to be involved in that. And again, the scale of this will be based on the number of dealerships, because any one dealer may only be able to handle 3 or 4 at a time, but there's hundreds and hundreds of dealerships around the state of Indiana that we could funnel students to.
Yeah. Interesting to watch this roll out. As you look more broadly in terms of your offerings, I mentioned your online presence, which I think Indiana Wesleyan, if I remember right, I think was somewhat of a leader in that whole online segment of education. How do you see the online piece of Indiana Wesleyan growing or evolving here in the coming years?
Well, we're continuing to evolve. We bought a coding academy. I don't know if you remember the 1150 coding
Yes,
academy.
exactly. Sure.
Yeah, we bought that a couple of years ago, but artificial intelligence came in and can now do a lot of the coding for us. And so we've actually pivoted, and now our Indiana North, which sits right on the north side of Indianapolis and Fishers, we are turning that into an AI academy. And so we are really focusing now on artificial intelligence and how that we're turning the Indiana North Center into a tech hub, a tech center. And we really feel that our online presence is going to continue to excel. We're trying to, Wayne Gretzky said, don't skate where the cup is, skate where it's going. And we really think that artificial intelligence is going to have a huge impact. I tell people all the time, you're not going to get replaced by artificial intelligence, but you will be replaced by somebody who knows how to use artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're training and educating the next workforce to handle. So I think our online presence continues to grow, and we just have to continue to be more and more relevant to the needs of the state and the region and the country.
Yeah, how important, I mean, I know the answer to this, but your view on how important it is for colleges and universities to connect with communities, connect with the business community and others, again, to produce the kind of talent that's needed.
Yeah. One of the great things about Indiana Wesleyan is that it has always been a little bit of a innovative and entrepreneurial. Back in the early 90s, they got into the adult degree completion and they just were everywhere. And then as the 90s got wrapped up and we moved into the early 2000s, people no longer wanted to drive one night a week to a regional center. We still have 10 regional centers, but they wanted to be able to open up their laptops. So we immediately converted all of our programs from driving one night a week to a building to having it available asynchronous actually on your laptop. So we launched into the online world very quickly. Moving into the trades and meeting the needs of artificial intelligence and helping the workforce to skill up and tool up is absolutely, we exist to serve Hoosiers. We exist to serve the needs of the American workforce. And we are a transformational school and we serve the whole person. We train not only the hard skills, but also the soft skills, but being responsive and connected to the business community, the needs of our community is absolutely part of our mission.
As you look at that mission, we've talked about online, we've talked about changes at the Indy North campus. Also, I think there are some changes afoot at your Fort Wayne campus as well.
Correct. Fort Wayne, again, has been, I'm coming in I've moved from Michigan to Kentucky to Ohio to Indiana. So I've been orbiting the Midwest.
Mhm.
But as we've seen Fort Wayne over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, there's been a transformative occurrence happening in Fort Wayne, but largely around healthcare. You see all the hospitals, you see Parkviews, you see the Lutheran hospitals, you see Fort Wayne Orthopedics, you see all these groups. Well, we've got nursing programs, we've got physical therapy programs, occupational therapy programs, we've got all kinds of integrated health sciences. We've been a leader in the nursing industry for higher education in Indiana for years. And we think that by transforming our Fort Wayne, which was just a normal regional campus where students used to come one night a week to take their adult degree completion programs, we're going to focus that and remodel that. It's about a $7 to $10 million project and turning it into a health hub and really focusing on the health needs and really not just nursing and PT and PA, but also mental health. We have grad counseling degrees, really treating not only just the body, but also the mind. And of course, the fact that we're a faith-based institution, the soul and the spirit as well. But really trying to really capitalizing on the fact that Fort Wayne is becoming this mecca for health. And we think we've got a great location, and that's going to be our focus in the Fort Wayne Center.
Again, lots going on at Indiana Wesleyan. And, we've talked about some of these new initiatives. We talked about the online presence, which I think encompasses students from some 30 countries or more. But how about right there at home in Marion on the flagship campus, if you will? There have been changes there too. And I've noticed, I think, some interesting moves, starting a football program.
Yeah.
And, you build a football stadium there. I believe you have a new basketball arena under construction as well. Talk about the decision to do that and because I know there's strategy behind it. What's it all about?
Well, the football program, I was blessed to walk into a beautiful, it's probably a D1 facility if you've ever been up. It's 5,000 seats, but it's a gorgeous facility and it's a showcase. It's a showpiece for our campus. And our athletic program, we are in the running. The NAIA has what's called the Learfield Trophy. It's the #1 athletic program in the country. We won it 2 years ago. I think we came in second. And as the end of the fall, we were again #1 so far in the running for the top athletic program in the country. 20 of our 23 sports are all in the top 20 nationally ranked. So we do athletics very, very well. When it came to our basketball program, our women are out competing for we're in the postseason now for the national championship. We went through the first and second round and they're not out in Sioux City, but our basketball programs are excellent. And so we have an opportunity. We have an L-shaped residence hall that we decided to shut down and attach an 80,000 square foot new basketball arena. to this L-shaped residence hall. And the one side will be offices, locker rooms, and a mezzanine. But the other north side is going to be a hotel conference center. And so we're going to get into the hospitality management business with a degree, appropriate degree,
Okay.
appropriate. Yeah. They'll be able to apprentice right in our own facility, but it'll be attached to our new arena. It'll be just north of our current athletic facility for the basketball team. And then that'll allow us to have some JV programs within our current gym will be turned over to our two-time national champion women's volleyball team. And we'll start men's volleyball once the move is made. We'll be able to have room now for a men's volleyball team as well. But again, the athletic program represents about 30% of our on-campus student body, and they are a great contribution. Our theme is I am third. It's God, others, and then self. I am third. That's our theme for our whole athletic department, and it's true from our bowling, from our trap shooting, from our national champion esports team, all the way to our football program, and it's part of our DNA.
How do sports and that emphasis on sports translate from an enrollment standpoint? I mean, colleges and universities all over the country are battling an enrollment issue. I assume that the sports piece of it is probably additive to what you're trying to do when it comes to enrollment.
Well, absolutely. With like you said, about 2,400 students on our main campus and 600 of them being athletes, that's a real key. The great thing about 600 athletes is that they all have to take a major. They all have to have a minor, so they are filling out our academic programs as well. There's a right way and a wrong way to do athletics. I mean, you can simply just recruit students, but then they're in and out. You have a retention problem. We don't suffer the same perils with the NIL and the transfer portal that D1 schools do, but we are suffering to a certain degree. We're in the Crossroads League, which involves Grace and Huntington and Taylor and other schools. We see some of our All-Americans picked off because they're being offered some money. It's not a huge issue, but it is still, we're starting to feel the effects of that, even at our level.
Yeah. As you look at your mission and all the things you have going on and the business of higher education, how does the university, it's a Christian university, how do you stay true to your Christian mission, your roots, what you're about, while also adapting to this, rapidly changing educational landscape?
Yeah, higher education is in an interesting time. And it's really interesting when you change administrations in DC and different requests are made of the schools. But, I think the key, you actually hit the nail on the head when you said, how do you stay true to your mission? That is the key. You have to stay true to your mission. If you don't stay true to your mission, if we don't stay unapologetically Christ-centered in everything we do, we become just a generic university with generic classes and a generic offering. And there are a lot of colleges that fit that category. There aren't a lot of schools that really stay true to their mission, their Christian mission. And I think that actually is appealing. That's what parents are looking for. And that's why they want to send their child to Indiana Wesleyan. Once we become generic, we've really lost our niche and we've lost the reason for our existence. And then we get in the muddy middle.
Yep. Much more ahead on the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC with Indiana Wesleyan University President Dr. Jon Kulaga. That's when we return.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America builds and maintains roads, bridges, and other essential infrastructure that make us the crossroads of America. So thanks to LIUNA members' work, Hoosiers have a better quality of life, like access to utilities, easier routes to jobs, schools, or medical care, and deliveries keep moving. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast. We're presented on a weekly basis by PNC. My guest this week is Dr. Jon Kulaga. He is the 10th president at Indiana Wesleyan University. And as we've been discussing, its main campus, flagship campus is in Marion, but clearly a statewide presence, neighboring states and online around the globe as well. And that presence and that impact continues to grow. Dr. Kulaga, you're a Midwesterner, right? Talk a little bit about growing up. I think you grew up in Flint, Michigan, the heart of the auto country.
Exactly. We always said in Flint that when Detroit got a sniffle, we got a cold, or when they got a cold, we got the flu. I mean, we were downwind of everything that happened in Detroit. Buick City, AC Delco. My dad was a teacher, principal, assistant superintendent in the Flint school district. So that was our world. And then I went to the Flint schools and just loved being in Michigan. Went to college in Michigan. Then after college, I've kind of been wandering around Christian higher ed, and I've been to 5 or 6 different schools since.
Did growing up in the heart of auto industry, has that impacted, some of your thought process, leadership? You talk about the vocational school and the other things that you're doing here, but you got an upfront and personal look at that growing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I was privileged to be able to grow up in a family that valued education. My dad had a doctorate from U of M, so we were big Wolverine fans, but we were surrounded in a blue-collar town went to a blue-collar church. My dad did all of his own personal binding arbitration with the teachers union. So I was surrounded by the labor union. I really got an appreciation, not just for higher education, but for the fact that there were a lot of people that earn a wonderful living doing other things besides higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lived in a very diverse community. My dad, when he retired from education, moved to the inner city of Pontiac. I cleaned the Pontiac Silverdome for a summer job.
Wow.
We lived, on University Drive, and we had a very diverse church. He went into the ministry there. And so we've always been a diverse community. I've always went to a diverse church. And so it's just been part of my normal upbringing. Growing up in Flint, you have a different experience than if you grow up perhaps in a different part of the state of Michigan.
Yeah, so it sounds like, clearly your path to education was the natural one with teachers in the household. How about, your commitment to Christianity and your faith and how important that certainly always has been, but where did that kind of develop?
Yeah, it came right out of my dad's dad was a Ukrainian immigrant to Pennsylvania. He was a coal miner.
Uh-huh.
And he landed at Ellis Island, and they said, okay, you're Russian, you can go to Pennsylvania and be a coal miner. He was radically saved from alcoholism when my dad was 6. My dad was the youngest of 4 boys. And just everything changed on a dime in his home. They stopped speaking Russian. Of course, the alcohol was gone. Church was important. And then they moved to Cleveland, and he worked in the factories. And so then all 4 of their boys went on to college. My Uncle John dropped out of college, but he actually drove the landing boats for the Normandy invasion.
Wow.
But the other 3 all got their doctorates. And so education became very important. But all through under all that was this very core commitment to Christ and to our faith. My mom and dad were very active in the local church. That became part of my life. I actually went into the ministry as a youth pastor right out of college, but it was a college church, and I fell in love with the college ministry more than the 7th and 8th grade ministry, and that led me into student affairs, and then my graduate degrees are all in higher education. But again, my commitment has always been to Christian higher education. That's where I feel I'm able to integrate my faith and learning naturally because it's part of the core mission of the institution. It's not something that I have to do maybe perhaps a little more covertly if I were working at a different kind of school.
Yeah. As you look at Christian higher education, you've been in the business for a long time, more than 3 decades. Has it changed in your view in this country? How Christian higher education works, how it's viewed. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the business model has really changed. I mean, there used to be denominations would send their kids to denominational schools and support their denominational schools. And that worked fine when there were lots of kids graduating. Well, now we've got a birth decline. We still have as many babies being born. And you've maybe heard about the demographic cliff that's facing America. Yeah, I mean, we're really good at recruiting students, but we can't recruit a student if they weren't born. And so, that gets really tough. And so the business model now is, with homeschooling and Christian schooling, a lot of Christian parents are focusing on really, really good ACT or SAT scores, and then they're shopping that score around for the highest financial aid package that they can get, maybe a governor's scholar at a state school, a full ride here, and the loyalty to the denominational school is not what it used to be. And so the business model is suffering. And as a result, I'd say at least half of all Christian schools in America are in some form of financial distress. They're trying to face enrollment problems. Their core demographic is not producing babies at the same rate they used to. And you're just seeing a campus decline.
Yeah. As you look at the future, what excites you? Again, a lot going on there at IWU. What excites you the most about the future there at Indiana Wesleyan?
Well, I am blessed to be working at a financially healthy institution. Last year we had $22 million in excess revenue, and we're projecting to be right around $15 million in excess revenue at the end of June. We are able to do some things that other schools aren't able to do. We've put about $7 million back into the paychecks of all of our employees. We have over 1,000. We have 1,091 full-time employees, and then another 1,200 or so part-timers. And so one of the things that excites me is the fact that Indiana Wesleyan has been able to position itself. We have zero debt, that we've been able to position ourselves in such a way that now when an opportunity comes, we're able to actually consider it and take advantage of it. We passed on an opportunity this fall, but we are being presented with opportunities to actually purchase schools that are failing and would like to be bought out and saved in some way. And we're in a situation where we can actually evaluate that opportunity. And I think we are excited about this generation of students who are tremendously they want purpose in their life, not just a paycheck. And I think working with those kind of students, that's what keeps me young every day. I mean, I'm leaving here and going to a juried art show, and then tomorrow at noon, I'm sitting in the men's locker room and having wings as we watch March Madness kick off.
That's nice.
And those are some of the opportunities that I get to do. But I think the fact that Indiana Wesleyan has been a very good steward of the resources, not both physical and human and financial, and is now in a place where when opportunities come, we're actually able to think about a vocational school rather than survival. We're able to think about a health hub rather than survival. We're able to think about a tech center coming out of the Indy North and impacting the Indianapolis community. We have over 60,000 alums living in the greater Indianapolis area.
Wow.
Yeah. We have 115,000 alumni, and 60,000 of them live in Indianapolis. I would love to connect with every one of those and let them know that Indiana Wesleyan is alive and well, and we're still on point and on mission. So those kind of things, I love getting up in the morning.
Okay, final question for you. As you look in that crystal ball, again, so many things happening, the potential for additional deals perhaps happening. What do you think Indiana Wesleyan is going to look like in, another 5-10 years down the road?
Yeah, I'd say in about 10 years, we call our online program national and global. We call it the national and global area. In all honesty, it's probably more regional than national and global. If you looked at where the majority of the students come from, we certainly have a national footprint, but it's more regional. We are right now in 90 school districts in Texas, and with a special program in Texas, I think we're going to be able to move that program to Florida and Arizona and just expand. I'd say we're going to be around 20,000 in 10 years. And we're going to have a truly national footprint, and we're going to have a footprint that's impacting international as well. We're going to be bringing in way more international students than what we are currently right now. We are forming those partnerships. We are looking for the right people. We've been to Vietnam. We've been to India. We've been to Singapore. We've been to Albania. We are looking for partners to send us students, but we're going to have an international footprint that I think right now we don't have.
Dr. Jon Kulaga, the 10th president at Indiana Wesleyan University. And Dr. Kulaga, thanks very much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Exciting to hear about what is happening, what will happen at Indiana Wesleyan. And I think really noteworthy the connection the school is making to the state of Indiana and the impact on workforce there as well. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. We're a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes, more than 200, and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.